So recently I covered the current state of Android front ends. So let's start with the one that you're all going to be asking for. Let's dive in and take a look at Cocoon. Okay, so for Cocoon, the one I imagine most of you have been waiting for. So the easiest way to get Cocoon is to go to Obtainium, and then if you scroll down to front ends, you can just grab Cocoon from there. However, as I will be showcasing the 3.0 release candidate, I have downloaded mine from the supporters Discord. So you can get this if you subscribe to their Ko-Fi, then you get added to the early releases channel. So I've downloaded that here, and that's the version I'll be covering. So do be aware that from this setup guide, some things might be a little bit different to how they are on yours, but the bulk of it will remain the same. Okay, so for our setup wizard, so this is very, very easy to follow. We're just going to answer the questions it asks. So we've also got Grub, our little mascot, and he's going to help us on our Cocoon journey. So we'll set it as the default launcher for now. So we'll just set Cocoon, there we are. So you can swap the main display if you prefer to have the top screen down here. I'm just going to leave it as is. We'll need to enable some permissions for time tracking, so we'll just tap Cocoon and we'll enable those as well. So for our data folder, so I'd always advise for your front ends, create a new folder specifically for that front end. So I'm just going to make a Cocoon folder and then we'll use that one. So favourite colour, I think as it's Cocoon, you've got to go with Cocoon green, surely. And then you can set a light, a dark. I'm going to go for the OLED just to take advantage of that gorgeous pitch black screen. So you can also set smart folders here or simple mode. I advise starting with smart folders, and then if you've only got a few games, use simple mode, but I imagine most of you want to data hoard your libraries. So it's going to ask you for your login, so I'm just going to go through and fill these out. I did cover these in my initial setup guide video, so do be sure to go back and check that out if you haven't. So once you've logged in, it's going to ask you to download the platforms. So this is how it can get the emulators and things like that. So just give that a moment. So once it's done that, it's going to ask you just for some file permissions as well. So we'll enable that. And then it's finally going to ask you for your ROMs folder. So we're just going to allow access to our ROMs folder, and it's going to scan through. And there we go. So if you want to start scraping immediately, you can do that. If you've migrated from ESDE, then you can import the data you already have. I'm going to start scraping for now, just to let that scan in the background. So you can see we've got our folders on the top screen. We've got our little pop-ups on the bottom screen. If we press our X button, we can quickly swap the screens. I probably prefer this kind of view. We've also got some little apps that are built in. Some of these aren't yet available, like Leaflet's not ready yet. This is a pre-release version, so by the time this is out, it might be, but we're not sure yet. So we can see that it is scraping in the background, so you can see that some of the artwork is populating. So it's working through the Game Boy games at the moment, so we'll leave that running in the background whilst we work our way through the rest of the setup. So we'll press our Start button. This will get our little options here. So you can add new folders, you can pin games, you can add widgets if you like to your device. There's all sorts of stuff you can do in here. We'll do a RetroAchievements widget. And then if you move your analog stick, then you can adjust the size of it. So we'll pop it there for now. Going back to our Start menu, if we press Apps, you get your app launcher. So you can also access this just by selecting this little icon here. You'll notice here we have some blank spots. So if we press into them, you can select an app for quick access. So we'll do Solid Explorer. We'll do YouTube, so you can subscribe to RetroPup. We'll also do Obtainium. And we'll do Discord as well. So also in here, we can set our sorting algorithms. So by default, it would just be manual, but I like having A to Z. So if I change this, it will sort everything alphabetically. You can also do the same thing inside folders. For example, if you want all your Game Boy Advance games to be alphabetical, then you just tap here, and you can set that to A to Z, you can set it to most played, date added, however you want to organize it is entirely up to you. But obviously the main reason most of you want Cocoon is for the theme. So let's start by looking at some themes. So firstly, before we dive into settings, if we come to System App and we open up SilkPod, this is going to be our theme store. So we'll have a look at what's popular. I know which ones I like, so I'll show you the ones I tend to go for. So I love the PB Mini Icon Pack by Linked. So I just press A and you can see it is installing up there. I'm also going to give it a thumbs up by pressing Y. I also really like this Simple Wash Heroes and Logos by Harry. This is what I use just for my little smart folder icons at the top. And I also like this ISO gradient overlays, also by Harry. This is where you can see in the little thumbnail there, it creates little system-based overlays on top of all your game icons. So they're the three I like. Obviously, there's absolutely tons and tons in here. There's new ones being added all the time. I've not even seen half of these, but some of these look pretty cool. Loads of anime. So if you're into your anime, happy Pride Month. If you're into anime, there's absolutely loads to choose from. And if you're not into anime like myself, there's also tons to choose from as well. So now we've downloaded our theme, how do we actually set it up? So we're going to work our way through the settings. So we'll press start, and then you can come down to Cocoon settings, or you can just press start again for a nice little shortcut. So we're going to go over to personalization, which should be the first tab. I'm going to go to theme. So for icon overlays, I'm going to select my gradient overlays. My smart folder icons will be my PB minis. My smart folder logos will also be the PB minis. And for the heroes, we'll go for the Simple Wash Heroes. I don't use background music or sound effects, but there are some available in the theme settings. So once that's done, we're going to press Y to confirm. Do make sure you press Y. If you just back out, it won't confirm it. So I've got my PB mini icons below. I've got my Simple Heroes at the top. And it just makes the whole thing already look infinitely better with minimal effort. And then if I head into a games list, you can see I've got my little icon overlays as well. Subtle but effective. And you can see that it's also working its way through, getting all our lovely, lovely artwork. So back to our settings. So you can also customize things like the animation speed. You can set jingles, which I will cover shortly as well. So as well as setting the theme, you can set your surface material. So you can have like that kind of glassy effect. I know that this is brand new and being worked on, and it can be a little bit of a battery hog, but I believe it's being optimized, so it shouldn't be an issue in future. Like I said, this is the pre-release version of 3.0, so your mileage may vary. You can also set your icon style. You can have a play around with this as much as you like. You can have page mode, which I probably prefer, which is more like, rather than having a continuous scrolling grid, you've got pages, which I think works a little bit better in my opinion, but it's entirely personal preference. And that's one of the beauties of Cocoon, is personal preference. It's all whatever you like it to be. You can also change how it transitions your heroes, how it transitions the logos, and all that wonderful stuff. For the now playing screen, this is going to be the little screen at the bottom, which appears when you play a game. So you can have a play around with this again as much as you like. I like having full screen folders, and I like showing the battery percentage. You can also hide or show the corner hints. So these are the little button prompts at the side. So you can hide these if you're comfortable enough, or if you're still learning how Cocoon works, then you can just disable them as you wish. Now for library and data, this is where we're going to manage our consoles. So for default sort, I'm going to set this to A to Z. I'll have noticed you do have to tap to get it to actually work. I'm not going to show hidden games. If you add games to your library, then you need to come here and rescan the games. It won't automatically scan on boot up, at least not yet. If you need to scrape, you can force a scrape from here. And what it'll do is, you can see it's currently scraping, and then as it scrapes, it will quickly show you a preview. And if you think, whoa, hang on, I don't like that, when it's midway through, you can just press your X button and you can quickly rescrape it on the fly. But I trust it enough that I'm going to leave it to it. If you want to export this metadata to ESDE, then you can use that option. If you want to import the stuff you've already scraped from ESDE, if like myself you're an ESDE user, then you can come in here, you can pick your folder, and you just need to save and link the folder, and it will automatically import all the artwork you've already downloaded. Now for managing consoles, if you add games to a console which isn't there, we have to add it, so we're going to press plus, and then if you select, say, we'll go for an Atari, press Y, we'll now have an Atari. So once you've done that, you can select it, you can set your default emulator, you can enable disable playtime tracking, you can add your ROM paths, you can also, I'm going to delete that because I don't have any Atari games, you can also add additional ROM folders. For example, if you've got some internally, some on an SD, or you've got multiple folders, then you can add as many as you like. I'd also advise, make sure you go through and set your default cores that you use in RetroArch in this. So if it says RetroArch, it's obviously the RetroArch core. If it doesn't say RetroArch, it's a standalone app. So most of these seem to be pretty fine. Yep, that all seems good. Now for integrations, this is where you can log into your scrapers and RetroAchievements if you didn't do that initially. You can also enable notification and conversation access. So we're going to press Cocoon, and for some reason it says it's a restricted setting. So in order to work around this, if we swipe down and go to Settings and then press Apps, Cocoon, we've got these three little dots here. So if we press that, allow restricted settings, and now we'll be able to see notifications from the device itself. Should be able to enable that now. Oh yeah, I need to actually allow them. There we go. So now they're enabled, then I can see Android notifications directly within Cocoon. We can also connect Discord, so if you've got Discord installed on your Thor, then you can log in, scroll down and just authorize it. And then you can show who's playing a game, who's online, you can have a rich presence enabled, all that wonderful stuff. And you can do the same for Steam. Okay, there we are, I'm now signed into Steam. So again, I can show my Steam friends, show in game only, wonderful. And then for System Advanced, if you just want to enable a single screen mode, you can do that. You can reverse the display roles, which is what I asked you in the initial setup. If you have any issues, you can just reset the app and start from scratch, or you can restore from a backup if you've upgraded to a new version and it hasn't worked. You can also back it up from here as well, and then reset any grid layouts if you need to. So if you want to enable another scrape, if you've imported some more games, for example, you can come to your scrape menu and then you can select what you can scrape. So for example, I just want to scrape achievements. So I'm just going to set it to achievements, and then I'm going to press my Y button to run it, and it's going to quickly scrape and grab all the achievements. So I've got this ugly system app folder here. So if I press my Y button and hover over that and press edit, I can remove this folder. So I'm also going to remove the contents because it's just the widgets, and I can access them from here as well. One thing to note, if you want to resize the icons, if you click your left stick, you can adjust the layouts on the fly. So obviously I've got it set to manual, so if we change our sort to manual, what you can do is if you can press and you can hold, and you can just drag your icons however you like, and whenever you flip back, it will remember that layout. If we boot into a game, we should be able to see our now playing screen. So if I just pick a PlayStation, nope. So let's grab some Pokemon Unbound, which is probably the best ROM hack I've tried out so far, so recommended. So we have, this is our now playing screen. So from here, we've got access to our app launcher. We've got quick access to our widgets if we need them. So you can use things like the keyboard. So do make sure you've enabled the display over other apps permission that it asks for. So if we boot that up again, I've got this dedicated on-screen keyboard. I've also got a touchpad and a trackball. If you're playing something on Game Native or PC emulator, for example, then you can do all that wonderful stuff as well. You can also press home and just access the normal screens as well, or you can jump back to your now playing screen. So you can also, if you hover over a game and you press your select button, you get some extra information. If you press select again, you can see the achievements. You can also do this by pressing the Y button, and that'll let you view the achievements list like that. What you can also do is if you've got a game that doesn't have artwork, or the artwork you don't particularly like, if you press edit and you go to edit game artwork, you'll be able to access an individual scraper. So you can select at the top by pressing your bumpers. You can choose which artwork you want to edit, for example, the hero, and then on the left hand side we've got the IGDB, we've got SteamGridDB, we've got Launchbox, and we've got Screen Scraper. So if we go to SteamGridDB first, you can see we've got all these alternate ones that we can use. So finally for Jingles, if we just press our start button a couple of times to go to our settings, on our personalization screen, if we scroll down and we go to Jingle settings, we can add a Jingles repo. So we're just going to press our Y button to add a new repo. So for the repository owner, if we tap in here and we put in Flapper Ultra 02, and then the repository name is Cocoon community Jingles. We press done and we add that. So that will be our repo. So in order to assign a jingle, what we need to do, I'll just make sure I've got some volume. If we go ahead and we go over to a game, for example, we'll have a good jingle. Metal Gear Solid's always got a good one. If we go to PlayStation and then we go to Metal Gear Solid. So I'm going to assign a jingle to Metal Gear Solid, but first I need to assign some artwork. So I'm going to press my Y button. I'm going to edit it, edit the game artwork. So we'll use Screen Scraper. We'll grab the box art. We'll go for hero, go for Screen Scraper again. Although Steam Grid DB usually has better heroes because it's usually like more fan art based. We'll go for the classic, and then for logo, we'll do Screen Scraper again. And we'll just use that one. And there we are. So now we've done that, we're going to press Y, and then we're going to go to Jingle. So if we press that little GitHub icon, it's going to pull through all matching Metal Gear Solid jingles. So we're looking for obviously the first one. So what's this one? So that sounds good. So we'll just hit save, and then we'll press Y to apply all of that. So now when I hover over the game, all I need to do is listen. So that is our deep dive of Cocoon 3.0. So like I said, this version is not currently available for public release. So if you want this version, you will have to join their Ko-Fi, which I'll leave a link to in the description below. Once you've done that, connect your Discord and you'll get access to the early releases. If you like this video, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. Please subscribe because I've got tons of videos about the AYN Thor coming out over the coming months. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop a comment below, and I'll see you next time.